Which of these is the most likely for Tennessee? And it's an SEC championship, a Heisman Trophy, a college football playoff, or all of the above.
All right, what are you taking, Caleb? Good morning.
Of those three, I'm taking college football playoff. With a Heisman Trophy, very, 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 very close second, like very close. But I'm going college football playoff.
Yeah, boy, what a story. I mean, seriously, to be able to, it just is hard to put into words. I mean, Caleb, let's take the fact, and you too, Amanda, because you follow all of football. Caleb and I have spent a greater percentage of our time covering Tennessee, but let's take a step back. Just in all of college football, where would Hendon Hooker, cast off from Virginia Tech, wasn't even deemed the starter, and now winning the Heisman? If he were to do that, where would that rank among the greatest stories in college football over the past 25 years?
Well, I do want to say that I don't know if anybody's noticed on Twitter or any social media that Virginia Tech is still trying to claim Hendon Hooker like it's a Jalen Hurts, Alabama, Oklahoma situation. Stop it, Virginia Tech. Anyway, we'll continue on with that later. However, that would be you love to see these kind of stories, and normally we've seen these stories and we've hated them because of the players that they are. The Cam Newton, transfer from Florida to Auburn. No one loved that story because Cam Newton's not the greatest person.
Sorry,
Jameis.
Amanda, I did like the story.
It's fine. You can like the story, but no one likes Cam Newton. Anyway, so just in my brain, no one likes him. And you see the Baker Mayfield thing. Like, I mean, all those kind of stories, you see that, transfer, walk on, left, transferred in. Kyler Murray was the same way, and they win the Heisman Trophy, and everybody's, they were counted out, they were whatever. This would be a good story because of who Hendon Hooker is as a person. This would make the best kind of story because he's not arrogant, he's not showboaty, he's not flashy, it's not any of the Superman thing or planting a flag in the middle of a field and or grabbing inappropriately at a complete crowd or whatever. He's a great person, a great individual, and it's also a good look for, I'm going to say this, it's a good look for Christians everywhere to have this kind of, role model and leader that overcomes such adversity. And it's not in your face. Like, I loved Tim Tebow. I loved him at Florida. It was very much in your face. Everybody talked about it all the time. That's all they talked about.
Well, and you also knew that team was a bunch of thugs other than him too. So that
Tebow's Christianity was used to mask murderers. Let's just call it what it is.
It's like a bunch of Judases and one, Jesus-like figure, pretty much, is what it was.
So is there a story that would even come close to that you can think of off the top of your head, Caleb?
Joe Burrow is kind of similar. I mean, he couldn't play at Ohio State, and he's not a bad dude. But if I were to think of something, wow, Amanda, really that negative towards Joe Burrow?
I knows it.
But anything else no, I mean, this was a great story. This was a great story. I think mainly because he transferred expecting to play in Jimmy Pruitt's system, and then Josh Heupel comes, and Joe Milton. Not only does he transfer in all of this, but he wasn't even named the starter last year. Which again, I was writing at the time, he should have been named the starter. I still maintain I think Josh Heupel named Joe Milton the starter because he went out. I think he had a bias towards Milton because Milton was the only quarterback he signed. So I'm still not buying what Josh Heupel says that Milton outperformed him in practice. I just don't believe it. So I think that we all that's not a knock on Milton, but we all saw his accuracy issues last year.
Well, so I think, in all fairness, Hendon Hooker had accuracy issues last year. I mean,
Yeah, but nowhere near to the degree that Joe Milton was. Joe Milton was missing some of the easiest touchdown passes I think I've ever seen. Now he's improved this year, and when I've seen him in mop-up duty, he's much better.
You do usually play like you practice. Okay, I will give you that. However,
Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, well, there are probably a half dozen or so examples when practice was open, Caleb, and believe it or not, that used to be a thing, that there were gamers. I mean, there were guys that went out and they played better than they practiced.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs is the epitome of the one that plays better, that played a lot better than he practiced, because they tried to sit him like behind two different quarterbacks, I think, and he ended up coming in and taking over that starting job. Because I remember there was a couple of different quarterbacks that they started over him. Maybe not in the same season, but like one started and then maybe got hurt and he came in, and then the other one started and then he came in. I just remember that.
The Joe Burrow comparison is apt because of the transfer, but you also have the flash. Joe Burrow likes to be seen in fur coats and all that sort of thing, where Hendon Hooker approaches the game as completely opposite. But there are a lot of similarities in that they are grad students. They are able to be gym rats, film rats, whatever term you want to use, Caleb. So, yeah, I mean, that certainly is a pretty incredible story. But I look at as far as an individual, and if that's the best we can come up with over the past 20 years, that's saying something, right?
I mean, I like that. And I think another thing that Hendon Hooker has, and what he reminds me a little bit of Jalen Hurts, just because
Jalen Hurts, that story ranks right up there with this.
Right. Well, the character of Jalen Hurts and the character of Hendon Hooker, how they're both very much team players, how they're both very much just out to win, to make their team better, to do, what they have to do to make their team better. Hendon Hooker is a lot like that. I see that. And I know Jalen Hurts started at Alabama, then transferred to Oklahoma because he lost his starting job. But he still stuck around at Alabama because he had that kind of character where it was about more than just him. And I think a lot of the quarterbacks we've seen that have been in similar situations as Hendon Hooker, it's really been just about them. And I know, you like Joe Burrow and all that stuff, but I still see him as a very much me kind of guy. Hendon Hooker, on the other hand, is a very much team player, all out for the team, no matter what. You put it all on the line, and he plays for the team. And that's where I think the difference is.
I'm actually happy that we hashed that out, because Jalen Hurts is the one.
Yeah.
To me, if you go past...
Well, coming in the SEC championship game and winning that game after Tua got hurt was really the Jalen Hurts story. Doing that against Georgia was a story. I agree with that. And it was also, I think, smart for him to stay around for a year. I think it really helped him work on his mechanics and things like that before he transferred to Oklahoma and was really ready to take over. It kind of reminds me of in the 90s, Dave, we talked about this over the weekend, but, T. Martin, when Peyton Manning decides to come back for a senior year, T. Martin easily could have transferred and gone somewhere else to play. Mm-hmm. And he decided to sit behind Peyton one more year. And T. Martin will be the first to tell you that was the best move he ever made, was sitting behind Peyton another year, because it really helped him improve his mechanics and develop a lot as a sophomore.
Well, but remember this too, that we're talking about kind of with oranges with T, because T would have had to sit out a year.
Yep.
So with the with the transfer rules now, it's easier to say, "See ya, I'm out. I'm cleaning up my locker room. I'm gone." Back then, T was kind of stuck. It was a really unfair one-way contract that the school could cut you after any year they chose to, but the player was technically stuck to them for 4 or 5 years without, or they had to sit out.